Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk as we come to the end of the fourth week of the month of Elul, and we read the Sedra of Nitzavim in Shul, in the synagogues on Shabbat this week. And it seems that there has been so much that has happened over the past 12 days with the passing of the Queen Elizabeth II, and so many of the themes and so many of the iconic images that we have seen over this time period are such a reflection and so appropriate for the time that we find ourselves in, the month of Elul, really now leading out of the month of Elul and into the month of Tishri as we approach Rosh Hashanah. And there is actually an allusion to the month of Elul in this week's Sedra, and that is chapter 30, verse 6. And the Pasuk says, Umol Hashem Elohecha es levavcha, Hashem your God will circumcise your heart, ve'es levav zarecha, and the heart of your offspring, le'ahava es Hashem Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, u'v'chol nafshecha, leman chayecha. To love Hashem your God with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. And the phrase, the words within that verse, es levavcha ve'es levav, those four words, the Roshei Tevos, the heads, the first letter of each of those four words, spell out the month of Elul. Es, Aleph, Levavcha, Lamed, Ve'es. The Vav is the Vav of Elul, and then Levav is the Lamed of Elul. And so this is taken as a remez, as a hint or an allusion to the month of Elul. And it is quite an enigmatic phrase. What does it mean to circumcise one's heart? And this is a very, very deep concept. But it's also giving us an insight into that special koach, into that special strength of the month of Elul, that just like a baby has a baby boy has a foreskin in the bris milah removed according to the laws of the bris, and that symbolizes entry into the covenant. There is some kind of spiritual, as it were. It's not a physical procedure in the same way at all, but this concept that there is something in the heart that is perhaps blocking, that is extraneous to the service of Hashem, and it is as if Hashem is removing that so that we don't have any blockages in our service of Hashem, especially at all times, but especially in the month of Elul, because we are entering a time that is propitious, that is really suitable and designated for a period of closeness with Hashem, where one can really develop a special level of relationship that we can't do during the rest of the year. So very interesting that in this Sedra that is almost always read the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, we have this posuk, this allusion to the actual month of Elul and a special quality of the month of Elul. And as we think about the four themes, we've had the first 3 weeks of Elul, we went through the theme of Shoftim. From the Sedra of Shoftim, we had justice, and then we have Kiseitse, and that was the going out to war and taking care of the vulnerable. And then we had Kisovo, when we come to the land of Israel, and then the requirement to serve Hashem with simcha, how we infuse our service of Hashem with simcha, with joy. So those were justice, caring for the vulnerable, infusing our service of Hashem with joy. Those were the headings of the first 3 weeks of Elul. As we go into the fourth week, again, tapping into an event of global significance that has happened now, the theme of malchus, the theme of sovereignty, really the sovereignty of Hashem, because when we think about Rosh Hashanah, although there are many other themes and other elements in the davening as we are preparing the head of the year, and we are trying to make the best of that opportunity to really start off in the right way and look back to the previous year, improve and go forward, and in a very strategic way identify any areas that can be improved, and sort of go forward with that plan, with that strategy. But we have got we are thinking really about crowning Hashem King. And the events of the past 12 days have shown us in a way that I haven't seen in my lifetime, and many people are going to be in a similar position. Anybody old enough to remember the Queen's coronation in 1953, I believe, and they will have that memory. But anybody born after that time, with Queen Elizabeth II having reigned for an incredible 70 years, during which until 2 days before her passing, she is receiving the new Prime Minister. She's worked in this job for 70 years, and that her passing has really combined so many themes, so many emotions, so many reactions and responses that are extremely relevant and helpful to us now as we go into Rosh Hashanah, and we can extrapolate how we feel, what we witnessed for an earthly sovereign, and we need to multiply that to the power of infinity to give us an idea when we are accepting, crowning the Melech Malchei Hamlochim, the King of all kings, and that is going to be to a much higher level. But still, we've had the opportunity of this message, this lesson that has been going on for these past 12 days. And nothing is coincidental, and so many times in the run-up before Rosh Hashanah, there have been hugely significant events, world-changing events that have happened. And I remember the year of 9/11, that which was 2001. Then it was also just before the Shabbos of nitzavim. Then nitzavim means standing, and I'm just going to go to the first posuk of the Sedra, that Atem nitzavim, this is chapter 29, verse 9. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem. You are standing today, all of you, before Hashem Elohechem, your God. Roshechem, Shivtechem, Ziknechem, V'Shotrechem. Your heads, your tribes, your elders, your officers, Kol Ish Yisrael, every person of every man of Israel, Tabchem, your young ones, your children, your small children, Neshechem, your wives, V'Gercha Shebekerev Machanecha, and the convert who is in the midst of your camp, Mechotev Itzecha, from the drawers of the wood, Ad Shoev Memecha, to the drawers, from the hewers of your wood to the drawers of your water. And in this posuk, that the Torah is telling us every part of the community is standing before Hashem. We witness that in the crowds that were standing to attention, really giving respect to the malchus, to the reign, to the ruler of that was Queen Elizabeth II. And this level of respect and the coming together of so many different shades and sections of society is really an event of historical proportions. And this is something, again, on the year of 9/11, the themes and the emotions that the words Atem Nitzavim awakened, this brought, I felt that the whole sky was going to fall on my head. I was just so terrified that, when whatever happened in New York, when the Twin Towers came tumbling down and the Pentagon and the planes just crashing down, and I thought, this is going to start happening. The possibilities of things that I would never have even dreamt of suddenly happening, and we just didn't know where it was going to end. And when we read the words Atem Nitzavim Kulchem Hayom, you are standing, it was almost like a reminder that yes, I am actually standing. I haven't been hit by a plane falling from the sky, thank God, and heartbroken for those that were. But it was just reading those words in that way, in that particular year, just gave another dimension, gave me a source of strength that came in the circumstances, in the horrific circumstances of that year. And this year, when we have seen the crowds standing, the crowds gathering, I was actually privileged to go on the day of the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II and be part of those crowds. And it was a very humbling experience. People from all walks of life, people who came in wheelchairs, people who slept overnight and actually became unwell right in front of me and had to be taken off by an ambulance. But they came because they wanted to show respect. And they were ordinary people. They didn't look like the upper echelons of society, the lords and the ladies, and they were ordinary people. They were filling up every single area that was dedicated for the crowds to stand. Those areas were full by 9 o'clock in the morning, and the funeral was scheduled to start at 11. And so this is something that was real time. Atem nitzavim, kulchem, this range of people and we think that Queen Elizabeth II unified, touched people from all sections of society. How much more so Melech Malchei Amlochim, the King of Kings, Hashem, who creates every single human being in his image. Yes, we have Kohanim, we have priests, we have Leviim, we have Levites, we have Yisraelim, we have the rest of the community, we have kings. However, every single human being is part of a nation of priests and a precious jewel to Hashem. And this is something that was actually on display as things were happening, and you saw the reaction of the people and that special connection that they felt with the Queen, and how they were so affected by her passing. And it was a very unique sight. And also this concept of nitzavim, standing to attention, as the kind of respect, the kind of dignity and the pomp and the pageantry that was on display. And although you might think that is, that's not necessarily something that we can learn, a higher type of lesson, but I did see in this precise precision the actual the exactitude with which they were carrying out their duty. And as servants of Hashem, as soldiers in Hashem's army, if we can take a message, a lesson from them, and especially in their standing to attention position, whatever one is physically capable of, to have that sense of being ready for duty. And there is a concept of subordination, just like the soldiers were listening to the orders that were being called out in very loud, clear voices. We too have to be ready to listen to those words of the Torah, to the mitzvahs, to the call of Hashem, and be as ready and as smart for duty as the incredible array of soldiers and uniforms and insignia, all marching and honouring that the special monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. And so that's the first image, and the way it links up with the Sedra of Nitzavim. The second image that I want to focus on is the picture of the crown and the orb and the scepter that lay on her coffin, and all of the preparations that were going on, Operation London Bridge. Apparently this has been planned for decades, and right down to all the details that are so important to make sure that this mammoth event that had not been seen on a scale like this at all, potentially, with these kind of numbers. And that has been planned for decades. And the Queen was part of these plans. And especially as we come up to Rosh Hashanah and we reflect on our mortality, we reflect on the gift of life of the previous year, we are praying for the gift of life for the coming year. And just that sight of the crown on the coffin, no longer on her head, but on that coffin. And in that moment, there is this knowledge that this is the great leveler, prince or pauper, a queen or somebody going about their daily business in a farm. It doesn't matter. This is something, this fate awaits all human beings. And the Mishnah that we read, the Perek that we read this past Shabbos, we read actually two. We read the third chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers and the fourth. In the fourth chapter of Pirkei Avos, of Ethics of Our Fathers, we have many references. We have 3 references actually to this concept of thinking about one's passing and preparing and living life in such a way that you're living with the knowledge that we are temporary. We are all of us temporary. And the ways in which the Mishnah tells us actually spells it out. And this is Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 4, verse 4. Rabbi Levitas ish Yavne Omer, Rabbi Levitas of Yavne says, Ma'od ma'od heve shafal ruach, be very, very humble, shetikvos enosh rima, because the hope, the end of mortal man is the worm. We are food for worms. This is a way of referring to the passing of the human, of the end of the human physical life. And this is one way of saying we have to bear this in mind. The crown that was worn over so many years on the Queen's head was on during the funeral, or while she was lying in state, was on her coffin. And before she was buried, all of these trappings of sovereignty, the crown, the orb, the scepter, were removed from her coffin, and she was buried as an ordinary. She was buried as a person, not a queen, as a person. And the trappings of monarchy, they passed to the next ruler. And so this is something that again was so visual as we were watching everything that was going on. And as in Perek, still in Perek 4, we have another Mishnah on this theme. Chapter 4, verse 21. Rabbi Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Jacob says, Ha'olam hazeh dome leprosdo bifnei prosdor lifnei olam haba. This world is compared to a corridor before entry into the world to come. Haskein atzmacha b'prosdor kedei shetikanes letraklin. Get yourself ready in the corridor so that you will enter into the palace and into the banqueting hall. So this concept of this world, Olam Hazeh, being a temporary stop, not only temporary, but this is the place where we're meant to get ready. This is the place where we prepare ourselves for the world to come. And while we are very grounded and very rooted in this world, in this life, there is this message, this knowledge that we are preparing. And this is also a theme that came out very often in the words of the Queen when she says, you know, however long my life is, I want to serve you. And she made good her words. And she really prepared herself in the corridor. And with the vast amount of good that she achieved and the values that she upheld, I believe that she certainly was eligible for entry into the banqueting hall. And the final Mishnah in chapter 4 of Pirkei Avos is very specific, and says that Hakol lafi hashcheshbon, everything is according to a strict reckoning. Va'al yavtichacha yitzra sha'ashol beis manoach lach. And don't let your evil impulse persuade you that the grave is a place of refuge for you. She'al korchacha ata notzar, because you are formed against your will. V'al korchacha ata nolad, you were born against your will. V'al korchacha ata chai, you live against your will. V'al korchacha ata mes, and you die against your will. Va'al korchacha ata osid litein din v'cheshbon lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, and against your will in the future you will be called to give an account and a reckoning before the King of Kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I think all of these themes that we saw with the image of the trappings of monarchy on the Queen's coffin and these words from Pirkei Avos, this is something that is really this of all years. We can put clear pictures to these concepts, and we can try to extrapolate. We can try to realize that whatever pageantry, whatever standing to attention, whatever humility we saw on display, we need to adjust everything to the power of infinity, because when you are in front of a king or queen of flesh and blood, or when you are in front of the King of Kings, then everything needs to be notched up that many levels. And I think that as we contemplate these themes, these events, these thoughts, and use them in our pre-Rosh Hashanah preparation to really understand, perhaps better than we've done in previous years, this idea of what malchus, what sovereignty means. And I think that we have something, again, in the Sedra of Nitzavim, that is so appropriate to help us link everything together. And these are the words that come in chapter 30 of Devarim, verse 11, and the Torah so beautifully states, Ki ha-mitzvah hazos asher anochi mitzavcha hayom, because this mitzvah that I am commanding you today, lo nifleis hi mimcha. It is not, the translation here, it is not hidden from you, but I think that this root, pele, wonder, nifleis, that it's not something that is so, that is belongs to fiction. It's not so wondrous. It's something grounded, something concrete. V'lo rachokahi, and it's not distant. Lo vashamayim hi, it is not in the heavens. Lema, to say, Mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayim v'yukacheha, who will ascend to the heavens for us and take it? V'yashmienu asav v'na'asena, and let us hear it so that we can perform it. V'lo eva layom hi, and it's not across the sea. Lema mi yavor lonu el eva hayom, who can cross to the other side of the sea for us? V'yikacheha lanu, and take it for us. V'yashmienu asav v'na'asena, that we'll then be able to hear it and carry it out. Ki korov elecha hadavar ma'od, rather the matter is very near to you. Beficha u'velevavacha la'asosa, in your mouth and in your heart to perform it. And again, I mean, we living in London, although the whole country of the United Kingdom was very much involved in the whole process that began with the passing of the Queen. But this idea that the themes, the messages, the morals that were so broadcast in the actions and the things that the Queen said over her lifetime that are really inspiring and uplifting, and the way time now after time stories are coming out about how the Queen was there for her subjects, and she would make an effort to, in the right context, speak to everyone, make them feel at their ease. And this is again stories of ordinary people who had the opportunity to meet the Queen, and they are sort of saying this, and it's not something that is far from us, that is unattainable. It is something that is in our mouths and in our hearts. It's the words that we speak. It's the emotions that we feel. And these are things that we can train ourselves, that we can look at the words of the Torah. We can really absorb the words and the lessons and become better people as a result of that. And again, this is something that was said in reference to the Queen, that she in a certain element of transcendence, she lifted people up and they became better people, and with her advice and with her with the way she conducted herself under all circumstances, and with her fair share of challenges. And so I think that as we go into this Rosh Hashanah, and as we read the Sedra of Nitzavim, there are so many themes and threads that we can weave together, so that the messages, the timeless messages, and the preparation that we must do for Rosh Hashanah, as we get ready to crown Hashem King, eternal King. And this is our opportunity. Although we have an opportunity to crown Hashem every time we bench, we say, HaRachman hu yimloch aleinu la'olam va'ed, the merciful one who will rule over us forever. Or every Shabbos in Kedusha at Musaf, certain versions of the Kedusha are crowning Hashem. And every Rosh Hashanah, where it is the anniversary of creation and the opportunity for the entire creation of Hashem to acknowledge the kingship of Hashem. And I think with these events of the past 12 days, with the images of royalty and the trappings of royalty, but how we can use those to give us a concept and to really enable us to understand and feel that we are in the presence of the King, capital T, capital K, and the eternal King, not like the monarch of flesh and blood, even a wonderful monarch who, in the fullness of time, living a very long and blessed life, it will still go the way of all human beings. So we have now so many fantastic things to think about, so many wonderful lessons, and I'm wishing everybody they should have a very good Shabbos, and they should have a very good Rosh Hashanah, and may the coming year of 5783 be a blessed year for everybody, and that our prayers should be answered. And we know that we say when we have the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh, before the new month, before the head of the month, we ask Hashem to fulfill our prayers for good. Sometimes we don't necessarily know what we're asking for, but our prayers should all be answered for the good. Wishing everybody a wonderful Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah. Thank you very much for listening.